Hello, friends. This is Professor Toto from the Conservative College, your neighborhood-friendly professor, and I want to ask you a question that I would like for you to answer. If you live next to a neighbor that has a cow, and there's a fence separating your yard from their yard, and one day the cow tears down the fence. He breaks through the barrier, the wall, the border, and comes into your yard. And suddenly, that cow that is pregnant drops a baby calf in your yard. Does that calf become yours because it was dropped in your yard? Or does that calf legitimately belong to your neighbor? Now, the cow that had the calf is owned by your neighbor. The cow's citizenship is in your neighbor's yard, not yours. But because he dropped his calf in your yard illegally, I might add, do you now claim that that calf is yours? Of course not. Ludicrous. Asinine. That is known as birthright citizenship. That is known as anchor babies. And that is the destruction of the United States immigration system. Now, it's called the 14th Amendment, and it may very well be one of our biggest mistakes in legislative history. Not the amendment itself, because the amendment itself was never intended for illegal immigrants to be able to have babies and they be called citizens. I've already explained this to you before, so I'm not going to do it again about the Dred Scott case. That 14th Amendment was in direct response to Dred Scott. The context, slavery. All right? Now, I'm going to prove to you that the 14th Amendment was only for slaves. Only. It was never for stop and drop. That's what I call anchor baby. Stop in our yard, drop your baby, and all of a sudden we own your baby. We pay all of his WIC. We pay for his food stamps. We pay for you to have the baby. We pay the doctor's bill. We pay it all because you stopped and dropped a baby in our world. And now we say that's our baby. That's not the way it works. Citizenship has always been and must remain a birthright. That is the reason in the United States Constitution, no one can be a president without being a natural-born citizen. Meaning, they can't be naturalized. They must be natural born. For all of history, your citizenship did not come from where you was born, but rather from whom you were born. If your mother or your father was a citizen of Nairobi, Kenya, no matter where in the world you might have been dropped, your citizenship was natural, birthright to you. That's why the presidency must come from a natural-born citizen rather than naturalized. Now, let me prove to you. You're about to see if I was arguing this case in the Supreme Court, and I wish they would let me, I would win. And here's how I would win. Are you ready? I would prove to the conservative court that the 14th Amendment had nothing to do with immigration. How would I prove that, Professor Toto? Very simple. The 14th Amendment was ratified in the late 1800s, I think 1868, if I'm not mistaken. Now, guess who was having babies in our land at that time? Besides white people and black people and slaves, Native Americans were having babies on our soil. Well, if the 14th Amendment applied to everyone that dropped a baby, then you would think it would apply to Native Americans. They lived here. They were dropping babies on our soil. And guess what? For 50 years after the 14th Amendment, a Native American was not considered a United States citizen until 50 years later, I think 1924. That's how I would defeat the 14th Amendment before the Supreme Court of the United States of America. I would prove emphatically that if the 14th Amendment was for anyone other than slaves, every Native American for 50 years should have been born United States citizens because they were born on this land. It is asinine. It is asinine, and it must be done away with. Donald Trump knows this. Donald Trump is forcing this before the Supreme Court to save the United States of America. Listen to me. You're not going to save the United States by building a wall. Why? Because that's not the root of the problem. Now, I'm all for the wall. Build it. It's a detour. It's a deterrence, but it's not a cure. There's one cure. Donald Trump is on to it. There is one cure. No, we don't have to repeal the 14th Amendment. We have to get it before a Supreme Court and interpret it. Why? Because that is the root of our entire problem. Because if illegals knew that their children will not become United States citizens, they wouldn't be trying to get over here. We must repeal it. All right? Okay? So just because the cow breaks through your fence and drops their baby doesn't make it your calf. It makes it your neighbor's calf, where that calf has citizenship in the yard next door to yours. Donald Trump, God has put it in his spirit to sign an executive order against the 14th Amendment, knowing that it was going to get stopped by a federal judge. He already knew that. That was the plan. Check mark. We're done. It has been. A federal judge has stopped it. Hooray. Thank God. That's what we want. Why? Because we can now do what? We can appeal it where we wanted to go to begin with, the Supreme Court of the United States of America. The 14th Amendment, it was a horrible, not the amendment itself, the interpretation thereof. Let me explain that one line that says, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Let me explain that to you with the cow and the calf. Who is the cow under the jurisdiction of? Anybody? All right, you got 2 yards. The cow belongs to John Smith. The cow is subject to the jurisdiction or the ownership of John Smith. Now, the cow comes into Shane Vaughn's yard. I have no jurisdiction over that cow. I don't have the deed to that cow. I don't own that cow. He's an illegal invader into my yard. Okay? Now, he's not subject to my jurisdiction. Therefore, when he drops a calf, since he's not subject to my yard, his baby is not my citizen. Donald Trump knows exactly what he's doing. Help is coming, America. We are going to override this asinine amendment. It's going to be reinterpreted, and this may very well be Donald Trump's greatest achievement in the history of our nation. It may very well be how he saved America by forcing the 14th Amendment before the Supreme Court. You might want to share this now to everyone that needs a better understanding. God bless you. I will be live tomorrow night, every Tuesday night. Did you know that Professor Toto has a show every Tuesday night, 7 Central, for 2 hours, where I teach you the United States Constitution? and the great republic for which we stand. I would love to have you as one of our new students at the Conservative College. You can find us on YouTube right now. Go subscribe to our channel. Just look for Real Professor Toto. T-O-T-O. Real. Because there's a lot of fakes out there that set up pages that try to emulate me, but there's only one. Real Professor Toto. YouTube.com/@ Real Professor Toto. Subscribe now. I'll see you tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Central. Have a great day.